Hey everybody, it's Joe with Joe Knows Cryptos. It's a beautiful day here in South Carolina. Blue skies and about 65 degrees and nice sweatshirt weather. Type of day you can just be outside all day and never get tired. So I'll talk about a few things here today. First off, just to let you know, a quick update on GVT. They did announce a partnership with a brokerage firm that will be trading on their platform. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I'm sure if you go on Reddit or their Twitter, Genesis Vision, that you'll run across that news as well. So that's good news. Like I said, as they start signing on more of these brokerage houses and brokers and big money clients, they are going to just keep going up and up and up in value. It's going to see new highs, I believe. Not financial advice, but just my opinion. Anyway, trying to get a angle here where the sun isn't shining right in the camera. So, has anybody heard what the last Bitcoin that is mined, what it would be worth? And don't take my word on this, but I was listening to a John McAfee interview, and he's a little bit flaky and all, anyone who's listened to John McAfee, but he does know his statistics and his technology, at least. I'll say that. He created, the McAfee antivirus for the computer, so he does know about technology. And he was actually mining Bitcoin for the longest time, for a good a couple of years at least. And he recently stopped to venture into other things because either he had enough Bitcoin or it was just not exciting enough for him. So he figured out, since there's only a limited number of Bitcoin, that when the very last one is mined, it'll be worth over, I think he said, over $1 trillion. That's amazing. So that tells you the potential of what one Bitcoin will be worth someday, one day. I don't know when. So if you have Bitcoin, even if you have, $1,000 worth of Bitcoin or $500 worth of Bitcoin, if it's worth $1 trillion, and who's to say what fiat currency will be worth in the future when Bitcoin, is actually that, valued that high? I mean, who knows, maybe by that time $1,000 will only buy you a cup of coffee. Who knows? But it's better than holding on to fiat currency at its current rate if inflation ever does go up that high. And you've got, say you've got $100,000 saved, you can buy 100 cups of coffee. That's not too good. But if you have a Bitcoin, you'll be in good shape. So that's just a little perspective on the value of limited currencies, where fiat currencies, they can just keep printing it out and printing it out and printing it out. When we need more, they print out more. Who decides this? The Federal Reserve. When we start to make too much money, we start to get, people start to get too rich off of cheap money. What do? They don't want us to be rich, so they raise the interest rates. That helps limit how much we can buy, because we can't borrow as much because it becomes more expensive to borrow money. Let's talk about globalism. And if you're not really into politics or world views of things, some people may think that they may not know a lot about globalism. The rich people who are in charge, who own all the media, 90% of it, it's pretty much all the news that you get from newspapers, magazines, TV. They're going to be basically pro-globalism and say it'll be great to have one world where everyone works together and helps each other out. And that's a picture that they try to paint on it up front. That's the makeup that they put on the pig. Globalism, in reality, if you look at what it really is, if you want to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes of your time, look up Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030. That's the real plan of globalism. This is the actual plan that they have in writing that is released, and it's available for people to see. The problem is people don't want to take 20 or 30 minutes out of their day to look up Agenda 2030. And basically, it's a pro-elite. So the rich people will be the rulers of the world. So there won't, your country may have a president or a king or a prince or whatever, but they'll just be a figurehead that will pass down the laws that are made by the elites. And their plans are not good for humanity. They're awful. First of all, with the invent of the technology that is now available between robots and artificial intelligence, there's no longer a need to have so many people in the world, in their opinion. So they just assume to have the world population drop down to about, say, I think it was 500 million, but I'll have to recheck that. Okay, so if you don't trust what I say that they want to have the world population drop down to 500 million, that would mean that the world's at about 7 or 8 trillion right now, that they would pretty much be wiping out millions and millions and millions of people through different means, not what you think. It's not come in and drop a nuclear bomb, and I mean that may be a eventual part of it, but that's not the actual way that they plan on eliminating people. They plan on eliminating people through disease, financial ruin, sterilizing, and each one individually doesn't seem like it's a huge deal, but when you take all the different ways that they're trying to lower population and you put it all together, it adds up to significant numbers and significant ways to drop the population. They don't want to drop a nuclear bomb and totally pollute the world and have nuclear, waste in the world and dead bodies everywhere for them to have to deal with cleaning up. They'd rather promote foods that give you diabetes and heart attacks, and cell phones with 5G that give you brain cancer, and give you medications and foods that lower your sperm count, and there's many different ways that they do it. These are just a few examples. And I can go into a whole religious reason why they do it, because if you come basically right down to it, you can find many sources that will say that these elites, globalists, the ones at the top, are Luciferian, anti-God. But I won't get into that right now. That's for another video. So anyway, you could also look at the Georgia Guidestones. If you haven't looked at that, there's plenty of videos on the Georgia Guidestones. These are granite pillars that are about, I'd say about 20 feet tall, made of solid granite. And then they have carved into them 10 different rules for humanity. And these things had to cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to have made and put up. So these were not put up by just some ordinary schmo who, thought it'd be fun to put up something controversial. This was put up by either a corporation or a person with a lot of money that could afford to have, I think it's about 6 or 8 pillars of granite polished and carved in, I think it's like 20 different languages, the most spoken languages, with these 10 rules on each one on each side. Look up the Georgia Guidestones, but one of them actually says reduce the population and keep it at 500 million. I think it's 500 million. So that's scary to me. Some people don't really take that and don't really take it seriously. I mean, how could you not take that seriously? To me, that's super serious. That's pretty much saying that they want to kill us off. I mean, how much more serious than that do you want to get? Then you look at Agenda 2030 on top of that, and they pretty much talk about having globalism, which is, let me give you an example how it's bad for you. So you say, so we've got, you know, a few leaders who control everything. So big deal. The world will be a better place because they'll be working for all the world. Well, first of all, they want to kill you off. So that's the first sign that it's bad. But what they want to do is have the UN pretty much be in control of everything. So you'd have unelected bureaucrats. So the people who rule everything are not going to be elected. They're going to be appointed, and the people that are going to be appointed are going to be the elite with some pretty sick ideas. So one of the things that they would do is have no borders, which some people might say is good, some people might say is bad. But the other thing they want to do is have troops from other countries patrol your streets and police you. Because when you, as a nation, don't like something and you can't vote it out because it's now an unelected people in charge that you didn't vote in, they were just placed and said, these are your new rulers that will decide everything for you. What if they make a decision that you don't like? Like, one of their big things is energy. They don't want people to have power and electricity. So let's say they say you have to keep your house in the winter, the highest you can put it is 60 degrees. Otherwise you're wasting energy. Or in the summertime when it's hot, you can't use your air conditioning, period. That's just a small example. So let's say they do something like that, and it gets enough people ticked off where they want to revolt. And if you have your kids, your sons and daughters and nephews and neighbors and friends that are in your police and your military, and they expect them to come and enforce these laws when they have to live under them also, and they may not like them, it's not going to work. So what they want to do is bring in troops from other countries to enforce laws in other nations. So you may have troops from China marching down the streets of America enforcing the laws, and if you try to have an uprising, they'll be the only ones that will have weapons, because weapons will be basically against the law. They'll be outlawed. You'll have no way to protect yourself or defend yourself, and you're pretty much going to be under the thumb, I like to say under the boot heel of other people. And you say that this is a far-fetched idea, but once it's out there and once you no longer have control, you no longer have freedom, how do you get freedom back? It's like, I mean, we're already slaves, but this is taking it to an obvious degree. If you've ever seen like the movie 1984, that's basically what you're looking at. And the movie 1984, even though it's fiction, it was based on reality. It was based on the writer actually was involved with communism. He was a big communist. He was involved with globalism in its earlier stages of organization. And these were all the plans that they were making up, 1984 style. And he didn't like it, and that's why he actually broke away from it and went into asylum and wrote books like Animal Farm in 1984, because he saw how bad it was for humanity, and he didn't want to contribute to it or be a part of it, and he wanted to warn us about it, but he knew if he just put it out there that the book may not be published, or maybe, you know, kept hidden away where no one would ever find it. And instead they become some of the best sellers of all time. Guys, I'm getting near that 15-minute mark. I'm gonna have to cut off the video now.